Hello?
Is Sailor there? Number.
Hello?
Wrong number. Okay, try again. That's fun. Sorry,
That
buddy.
didn't sound like her.
Sorry, buddy.
That didn't sound like Nick either.
Who did I call? Okay. Okay, triple checked it. Please don't be the same gentleman.
Hello.
Hey, Sailor. Can you hear us?
I can.
Good. I may or may not have called the wrong number first and got some gentleman who didn't know what we were doing, so.
Whoops.
Whoops, yeah.
All right. I think we'll start without Clint and we can add him in after if he comes. Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order. Does anyone have any additions or changes to the agenda?
Hey, Sailor. Sailor, can you hear us? Hi, can you hear us?
Sounded bad.
Okay, we're getting some feedback. Do you want to mute and then come off mute for voting and discussion? Okay, thanks, bye.
Okay, so any changes or additions? Otherwise, can I get someone to motion to approve the agenda as is?
I'll motion to approve. Second.
Oh, we need someone writing this down, don't we?
She is on the other end.
She is there. Oh, perfect.
Sailor, amazing.
All right, so we've got a motion by Sarah, second by Christie to approve the agenda. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, no visitors to be heard, so we'll move on to the minutes from last meeting. If we want to look through and then someone give a motion to approve once they're ready.
I'll motion to approve as written. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, moving on to new business. Some survey results. So Christie's got some information for us.
You bet. All right, so I'll start with flag football, move on to soccer, and then we'll take a peek at that community recreation survey that we had done. We had, starting with flag football, we had 23 responses, so not too bad. The first set of questions that we had was specifically for the volunteer coaches, and we had 8 people that were coaches that responded. And so with the first question, their overall experience as a volunteer coach, we had all either very satisfied or satisfied. And then we had them rate the field space for the program, and we had the majority, 6 of them either exceeded or met expectations, and then 1 that was below expectations. And it mainly had to do with the communication, just a little bit with the school and South Dakota junior football, and just kind of some of that communication on field use that was got a little.
Was it practice times?
Yeah, practice
Or
time.
overlapping or something?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. So nothing huge there. And the new AD, Casey Shade, and I are talking through about how we can make sure for next year that that's just like locked in and ready to go. So he's actually kind of playing around. I just visited with him today on the Bound, that new Bound app, and there's some potential, scheduling things there, and also Google Docs and some different options. So how satisfied were you with the support provided by the Lennox Parks and Rec program staff? 6 very satisfied or satisfied, and then 1 dissatisfied, and it had to do with one of the games where they had asked the ref something and they didn't quite know the answer and they didn't appear to know kind of who to go to at that time, which we did have a field supervisor, so I think it probably came down to communication there. What went well as a volunteer coach, just some really good feedback there. It seemed like the coaches really appreciated the timing of the practices. They liked that there was assigned practice times and that we had kind of that carved out for them with those field slots and communication there. And then there was some shout outs just to the parents stepping up to help out. So we had a couple comments on that. And what can be improved, and this is again just for the volunteer coaches. And one comment about how it would be nice to have more than one or multiple coaches, just so it doesn't all land on one person in terms of the commitment. And then a couple different comments about the pennies and the flag belts not being the right size or not quite having enough for their team, and had to do kind of a lot of rigging up of them. So easy things that we can do, deal with and make changes for the upcoming year. And then the remainder of the questions were to all. How satisfied were you with the program structure? We had the majority very satisfied or satisfied, with 2 being indifferent, neither satisfied nor dissatisfied. One comment that they would prefer 20-minute halves like other leagues versus I think ours were 15-minute halves if I remember correctly. So we can look into that as an option and try to take a look at other leagues around the community, which we did for soccer this year and made some changes too. So how would you rate your satisfaction with the game officiating? And we had everybody that said very satisfied or satisfied. Quite a few shout outs just to the high schoolers that helped with that, and they did a good job and kind of worked with the kids and just did a great job. A couple people just said they could maybe use a little bit more training. We did have a training with all of them, but we could maybe spend a little bit more time going over some scenarios and things like that. How would you rate your satisfaction with communication from the coaches? And all were very satisfied or satisfied. And same goes for my child improved football skills and learned general knowledge of the game. All satisfied or very satisfied. Next one had to do with whether the overall atmosphere of the program was really promoting positive youth development. So sportsmanship, fun, encouragement, those sorts of things. And again, all were either strongly agree or agree. What went well? The large majority of the comments on here were things like just really, they learned a lot and had fun. I just kind of highlighted that several times, many people saying that. A couple of people that just noted it's nice not to have to drive into Sioux Falls. They love how small the teams were, things like that. And it was well organized, the games went smoothly, and the field space was set up and marked really well too. So, and then things that could be improved. One good thing for us to consider, a couple people had said that we could consider doing a final like playoff or a tournament week, that the kids would think that's kind of fun. So we can consider that moving forward if that's something, or maybe with the older age groups or something. So look at that. But the majority of the themes that I got out of this was really having to do with those pennies and the belts and the shirt colors, just some of the confusion because they were all wearing black with the pennies to differentiate. So a recommendation maybe to do the different colors like soccer does, or figure out a different system for that. So things to consider for next year.
How many different teams were in each age division?
We had, you put me in the spot and I forgot my.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
You told us a couple
I
months
know,
ago.
it's all good. I think it was 5 for the youngest, 5 and 3. I'll have to double check on that. I need to grab a computer too for other
So
things.
you could almost do like the playoffs in one Saturday.
Yeah, you could do
with
single
that,
elimination
with
easily.
only that
and-
many kids.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I definitely think we could do that. Any questions on flag football? Okay, any thoughts on any of it? Okay. Soccer. Oh, she lost the call. One sec. Probably bad cell service.
Sorry about that.
No problem. I'll try to keep my phone on me in case it happens again, I'll give you a ring. Okay, moving on to soccer. We had 20 responses, of which just 4 were coaches. The coach feedback in terms of how satisfied were they with the program structure, all were either very satisfied or satisfied, with the exception of 3. And the majority of the comments then below had to do with, we had a little bit of an issue with Sports Engine. The way we input it in there, it was kind of going back and forth between using field A, B, C, and 1, 2, 3. And I contacted Sports Engine and they were like that we can't get that straightened out. So I would have had to manually go in and do that, and I didn't take the step to do that and should have. So after the first set of games, we went and labeled them, and I think it worked itself out much better. But that first set of games was maybe a little hairy, so. How would you rate your satisfaction with, from the coaches? So this was to everybody. More direction that first game, just a little bit more information sent out. A little confusing at first, but we got there. And then several comments about the dedication of the coaches. Somebody said, I haven't had a bad coach in 4 years of soccer. Just a lot of really good comments on the coaches, so that's great. My child improved soccer skills and learned general knowledge of the game. All but 3 either strongly agreed or agreed, and the 3 were just kind of neither agree nor disagree. The overall atmosphere of the program promoted positive youth sports values. All either strongly agreed or agreed. And then the things that really stuck out in terms of when we asked them what went well for the season, they really liked how the fields and the schedule was set up and the rotation of that, and the volunteer coaches. Again, there's lots of shout outs for the volunteer coaches. And then what can be improved upon, the majority of them had to do with the field labeling and kind of the hiccup with Sports Engine. And then a couple people that mentioned that it was difficult for their kids when they wanted to play both soccer and football, and it's in the same day. It can get to be kind of a lot, and that's, kind of a challenge, but there's only, so many seasons and number of months that we can get those in there. So it wasn't a large amount, but a couple people had mentioned that in here. Oh, and then a couple people had mentioned, especially for the little ones, I think there was one Saturday that we needed to have a doubleheader with each team just because we had an odd number of teams, and that got really hard for the younger kids. So if we do that again, we'll have to make sure that we communicate to the coaches that those will be shorter games and then flip-flop to the next game and kind of speed it up that way, so.
Well, and I assume that was only because of the number of teams we had.
Right,
If we had one more team, we wouldn't have to probably do that.
exactly.
So,
And the other option
might
would have
change
been to give a
anyway.
bye and
Yeah.
extended the season, but then we get into how cold is it gonna be, and that can get miserable for the kids, and,
and I didn't love playing 2 games, but
yeah.
I wouldn't have wanted to play another week.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
the 2 games in that one day was okay to me.
Yes.
Especially if you could practice, skip that practice
Yes.
time and just jump right into the
Yep.
game, that helped.
Yeah. Oh, there was a comment too about how their particular kindergartner is maybe quite a bit bigger than a lot of the other kids, and especially then not only for kindergarten but the pre-K. And so they could tell that he was playing very hesitantly because he didn't want to hurt others and that sort of a thing. So that's something that we could try to discuss more in the future. I talked to a couple of the other communities surrounding here, and there are times that they make some of those exceptions, so we could set up a process to contact, me directly if they want to I would still probably have them register for the age group that they're in, just as to not let anybody just sign up for whichever age group they want, but then some sort of a process to make sure to contact if, I think sometimes parents know best, right? Like if their kid is maybe over or underdeveloped, especially at those very young ages too, so.
And if it works out numbers wise, like
Right,
taking him away from the younger group to bring him to the older group doesn't wreck something down at the lower level, then.
yeah,
So.
easy peasy. Okay, that was soccer.
Yeah.
And then this one I did have in here, that I did print off for you. It's kind of nice to see the numbers and where they landed. But we had 193 people respond to this survey, which I was very pleased with. The way that we asked it was, so for example, do you have any kids age 2 to 4? And then if it was yes, then it popped up the next question and it said, how many kids in your family would be interested in the following activities? Just so that, you know, if there was a family that had 2 or 3 kids in a particular age group, that we could get those numbers more accurately. There was really a lot of great response. I put quite a few in there, just we don't really currently serve, and we have gotten phone calls about that. I remember when I first started, I got quite a few different emails or phone calls saying, do you have anything for the little kids? So I do think that just based on some of that anecdotal, that people would be interested in that. There wasn't any clear standout, you know, with all of the activities listed. I guess the movement, like tumbling and obstacle courses and kind of kicking, throwing, catching, you know, were the highest, but the others were not too far behind. The music and sensory play and nature activities and so forth. Moving on to kindergarten through 3rd grade. We had 118 kids that would potentially be interested in what I called seasonal fun. So maybe building a snowman or painting pumpkins. So that'd be more of like a one day event or a couple hour event. Next up on the list was STEM and learning play. So whether it be board games or blocks, you know, connects, simple experiments, things like that. But the nature exploration and the intro to sports were also pretty high up there, so. That's a lot of potential kids, so. Some fun new programming. And I'd like to have some discussion after we kind of go through the numbers, just in terms of how we might want to consider building this out, you know, within our program and what we have capacity for. 4th through 6th grade, the biggies, we had 83 potential kids that would be interested in game nights. So the examples I gave were maybe kickball or trivia or capture the flag, those sorts of things. And then the seasonal fun, again, on that one. Outdoors, like archery and fishing was also up there on that one. And then pickleball was not too far behind with 60 potential kids interested in that 4th through 6th grade. And then 7th and 8th grade, so junior high, we had the most with sports clinics. I did have them then in like the open-ended box, just kind of list the activities, and it was a splash of kind of all different sports, so I didn't include that information. Open gym was of interest. We had 44 kids potentially interested there. And then the game nights that kind of previously mentioned. I did throw in like just kind of an intro to CPR first aid. It would not be obviously like they're not getting a certification, but just some general information. And I did talk with Alan about that, you know, if there would be interest from the folks that are ambulance to do some of that training, but there was about 40 people interested in that too, potentially. Now, granted, these are the parents, right? These are the parents. I always think that, like, I wonder then if you ask the kid, right? So these numbers, we have to take it for what it's worth. It's not going to necessarily, you know, people's schedules have to line up. The kids actually, you know, want to have to do that. And I think a lot of it depends on what their friends are doing and all of that. But still kind of promising there. And then 9th through 12th, the top one there was the seasonal fun, and then the CPR first aid had a lot of interest as well. Quite a few with open gyms, pickleball, and then community service projects, so pulling weeds, trash cleanup, and then other community service as decided and determined, by the teens themselves. And that one had about 36 people who thought that their kids would be interested in that, so for the high school grades. And then when it comes to adult programming, we had about 60 people, all for seasonal crafts, yoga and mindfulness, walk, run club challenges. And then just behind that was first aid, CPR, and book club. Book club had 46, that was pretty big. I thought that'd be something we could maybe try to pull off this winter even, so. Oh, co-ed softball, I missed that one too. And that was an inquiry we had, so I'll have to do a little bit more work into what other communities might have that and we could potentially play against and that sort of thing, so. We had talked about before whether or not it's a league or maybe it's just a couple tournaments or a smaller series and those sorts of things that we could potentially start with too, if we didn't want to build out a whole league right at first, just to see what the, interest in people showing up, so.
Yeah, because it all depends on the schedule of their kids, I suppose, too.
Yeah,
Because we talked about that with volleyball and how it's really tough when you got 2-3 kids and
right.
you can't do anything because you got something every night already, so.
We're gonna have so many hobbies when our kids are
We really will.
off and on. I just open it up to any questions or thoughts on that, just your first look at that and what comes to mind or.
One thing that comes to mind for me is really getting the library involved, because they do, especially looking at some of these younger, all summer, they do so many, even during the school year, they do STEM things for kids, but so many of these, even a book club for adults, the library currently is doing. So I think that it would be interesting to see if there's ways we could partner with them or cross-promote,
Yes,
'cause
instead of doing something new, just
Exactly.
kind of work together on that.
Yes, and they have
just for-
that space,
Yeah.
to do some of the board games,
Yeah.
things like that.
And they do like every other week or whatever, they have some clown come in and
Yes.
Yeah.
make balloons or what,
Yes.
like all that programming too.
Mhm.
All
Yeah.
summer, they have so many
And
arts and crafts.
yeah. So I mean, offering that in addition, like you said, co-oping with them almost.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that'd be fun to work with Audra more on that too. I didn't put general arts and crafts for those young ones just because I know that they do a lot of that, but I thought, well, just a seasonal splash might be kind of a, a fun thing but
I think it's good to get an idea of what they're gonna do and well ahead of time, so now
Yeah.
you can look at, what the route is going forward.
definitely.
Because I know in the last year, we got like a late start. And the year before, there was a really late start. So it was kind of, we're gonna try these things
Right.
but I think this gives you a good plan or something to look at least. So that's
And one
good.
thing I've been just kind of trying to toss around too is, how much of the programming that we want to do is building out the summer program, but then
Right.
also days off of school or over the winter, so that there's some more year-round programming too, which some of these, that's why I kind of put some things in there that are, potentially could be done when it's really long winters and we need to get out of the house and get our kids doing something other than electronics like we were talking about before, so I don't know what.
Christmas break or something, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which I know that's coming up sooner than
Yeah.
later, but yeah.
And again, if there's a way, because days off from school, the library shows movies, but if there's just ways that we could team up with them
Yes.
and use that space where people are used to going
Mm-hmm.
and maybe expand and do some different things
For sure.
over Christmas break and days off, that would be really neat.
Yeah, the book club thing, like you said, I had it on my calendar, so I read the first one, but with volleyball, they have it on Saturday mornings, so that's a volleyball day.
Got
So,
it.
Yeah, I read the book though too.
the first one, and then I got off track.
Consti. We can have our own book club.
I'm out.
Steve and I were watching movies.
Yep, watch the movie of the book.
I think it would be neat with, I mean, some of those toddler preschool, I remember like when my kids were that age, you know, if it's more of like a mommy and me or like a parent
Yes,
and child activity
Yes.
versus
for
a
sure.
drop off, a 2-year-old seems like, you know, but I think it'd be fun to do little like, I don't know, some of those music or things like that could be fun. To do little activities or have, again, in the winter months,
Yeah.
it gets dark at 5 o'clock
Right.
to do something.
I thought the same thing too. So I'm from Minnesota originally, and we had the ECE program or whatever, and it was a lot of like mommy and me at the time, but parent and me, you know, whatever. And I do think that there's some some benefits of that for parents to be able to just take a minute and be, present with their kids and have it be where they're not having to organize it themselves, or maybe don't have the equipment at home if it's like kind of some of this exploration of noisemakers and things, instead of having to go out and buy it and have it be interactive that way. So I just think that could be something potentially great to work through too.
I do know on the movement, like the tumbling, and this was several years ago, there was maybe like a high school
Yes,
girl or
college.
something
I-
that she
yeah.
just
Uh-huh.
and had done gymnastics, so she tried to get, I think it was like a basic gymnastics or tumbling type thing going, and then it didn't work out for the second session or something, but it seemed like there was
Yes.
quite a bit of interest.
Awesome.
It was fun, yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
thought I
had signed up
liked
for
it.
the second session, so
shoot.
we didn't get to do it or whatever, but so.
I wonder what she all had for equipment. Do
And
you
it was
remember?
just over, where, it was downtown here, had a location, she had a little like, I think she had a couple different bars that the kids could swing on. She might have had a little balance beam. I know who it is, I mean, I could
Yeah.
get the contact
Yeah.
information and just learn about it.
That would be
I think she had a baby, so I think that's kind of, is
Yeah,
why that,
yeah.
but yeah, it was fun.
There was a lot of people that signed up for it at
Okay.
the time.
Yes, it filled up.
Well, and I think with the new auxiliary gym and everything, I think there's some potential for some more space to be freed up for these sorts of things. I know a lot of the youth sports, take up a lot of those slots too, but I think it's exciting that our community has that. And I talked with Casey Shade as well, and he definitely, we appreciate the mutual partnership and is working with me on trying to, make sure that we can figure out what's gonna work best. So for some of these programs, if we try to have certain days and time that we have reserved, and then kind of sprinkle in the different ages and activities within similar time frames, or just kind of do it as we go and see what's open, when we're playing, like as the planning progresses or what. So we don't have it all figured out yet, but just kind of trying to sort through what we might be able to get going even yet this winter. Hopefully if we can get a few things, and then obviously build out the summer program as well. So yeah.
I mean, I think with that in mind then, I mean, just an open gym, which doesn't take a whole lot of planning, but I think the community very much wants that. You
I've
know?
had people ask about
I have
that.
too.
And, I mean, we never got anywhere with it, I guess, at that time, but.
Have to figure out basically supervision, and then what's the typical format? Like, is there where you have, it's just literally wide open with, or do you have like one night there's a little space where they're doing pickleball, and another night, like, do you have a focus area for the different ones, or is it just?
I've been at Worthing when they were doing it, and it was kind of a free-for-all at that point, but I don't know if it all, I just happened to be working there when people were starting to come in, and so I'd walk through the gym and notice, and there was nothing planned at that night, but that might not be a typical night. If it's like, oh, here's a pickleball net, if someone wants to play, they
Right.
just pull it out.
Yeah.
Or a volleyball net is up every other week or something, because I
Right.
suppose that either has to be up or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if you had like a rotating schedule of this is basketball, on this night we're doing basketball, and this night we're doing volleyball, and they can set up a couple nets, and then this night we're doing, so then people could kind of pick and choose on, and then you would have like the specific equipment up and ready or whatever,
That's a good idea too.
variety.
We
But
could,
even
like,
with
have the-
basketball, yeah, with basketball, you might not use the whole court for basketball, so then you could do something else with it, depending on the numbers, I
Like a
suppose.
combo night or something,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Or
don't
like
know.
in the elementary, you can drop that
Yeah.
curtain, you know, where you could have something organized, like on one side, something set up, and the other one is a free,
Free
you know,
for all,
is a-
yes,
or
because you
something.
can lower the hoops, I believe, in that gym.
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
And so then little ones could, you know,
Yeah,
younger elementary could get shots at.
that's the other thing, we'd have to figure out what age groups, you know, or is it gonna be open to all, or would it be specific? Because the supervision would differ then, right?
Yeah.
Depending on how big it got, you know?
Yeah.
But-
Well, I would envision it being more like younger, I mean, seventh and older, they have the opportunity to be in
Yes,
school sports.
yeah.
But that, you know, younger than, if you think about kindergarten
Yeah.
through sixth grade.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could specify like teens and adults night or something, so if
Mhm.
people wanted to go, and,
Right.
especially in the winter, I just feel like
Yeah.
it's an outlet to get in, to do something.
Yeah.
Anything else on that? Sailor, can you still hear us?
We can hear that.
Yeah. Okay. I know she came off mute, so she can hear us. Perfect. I should see if she, okay.
Okay, anything else on that?
Thanks for the feedback, yeah. I don't think we need
I
to,
think it's,
you
yeah,
know.
it's good,
Mhm.
Good stuff.
thank you. All right, then we'll move on to the next part, policy and procedure discussion.
Yes, so I've been spending quite a bit of time the last several weeks with the current park and rec policies as written. I just think there is an opportunity just for some reevaluating and review of the order of things, maybe bulleting things out so it's a little bit easier on the eye and sectioning it out so that we can reference, you know, different areas and that sort of a thing. So I'll go through, hopefully at the next meeting, what all of those recommended changes are. So we don't need to necessarily be, that there's a few items that I want feedback on so that then I can draft what that policy would be. So we don't need to vote or anything on this today, but it's just so that I'm getting close to feeling like I'm well underway with that project, but there's just a few sticking points that I wanted to get the board's help on, so. One has to do with, as we know, the field space during the baseball, softball season has been continuing to be brought up. So one idea, again, with talking with other communities, I know there was one I talked to where they have T-ball, for example, a little bit later in the season. So it would be more like third week in June through the end of July or what have you. So that was one idea I had in terms of freeing up practice space and potential game space at the T-ball field. It would free up our Sundays there for practices, and then there were some of the T-ball teams that practiced during the week, so it would be about probably 9 practice slots that it could then open up during the regular season. So I just wanted to get feedback on that. You guys have had either already still do or have had younger kids kind of go through the program and what that would look like.
For me, I don't think it would matter. I mean, I don't have kids in there anymore, but it wouldn't have mattered. At that point, I think freeing up the Sundays and maybe, you know, moving T-ball to a middle of the week thing, because that's the only thing going on at that point, is gonna be more helpful, because I think there's a lot of people that camp or travel and they miss Sundays, or they have to rush back for Sundays. And I think that would be helpful in that case. And I think it would help with the baseball, softball, just having that field free.
Okay.
So I don't see any problem with it. I mean, it could be something that we try, and if we notice, oh, people didn't sign up because they didn't like that, we could always look at going back to it, but
Yes, this next summer I'll have a T-baller
Okay.
and 2 softballers
Uh-huh.
in the 2 different leagues, so having it not all at the same time
Gosh, that's
would
what I
be
was
Yeah.
thinking, yeah.
nice, probably.
Yeah, if anything, I think it might be kind of nice to just spread it out a little bit instead of trying to do it all at once if you have multiple kids.
because those fields do sit pretty much empty from
Yes.
Yeah,
the end of June.
Yeah.
You know, they're really busy from end of April to
Mm-hmm.
mid-June. And then once the league tournaments are done or whatever, you know, there might be a tournament team or whatever, but that's it. And they sit pretty empty,
Mhm.
so.
I have heard from other parents too, they're like, oh my gosh, between, you know, if they have a girl in softball, a boy in baseball, and then a T-baller, they're like, I mean, we're doing ball every night of the week, and it gets a little crazy too, but, so.
Yeah.
Um,
I think-
Sailors cannot come off mute, it's not working, but she said she agrees with the conversation, she's texting her. But
Okay.
What were you gonna say, Chrissy?
I was just gonna say, yeah, I think by the end of, like, the first week in July, we've been pretty much buttoned up with softball for the most part. So, I mean, July, maybe after the 4th of July or
Mhm.
something for
Mhm.
T-ball would
Mhm.
maybe be good.
And I think for baseball, it's, tournament team goes until about mid-July as well. But
Yeah,
the league tournaments are done in June 20th or something, so it's really just that 2 weeks, 3 weeks where it's, the tournament teams are the only ones, practicing
yeah,
at that point, but they're not really playing games
mhm.
at that point.
Right, that's true, okay. The other thing that I wanted maybe a little bit of history and feedback on is whether or not we should consider going back to co-ed. I don't recall, somebody had just mentioned that it used to be that way, and then at one point in time it was changed. I don't know if any of you have that history, but when looking at the other communities around, it really seems like the majority are co-ed, and I know it was difficult for the girls this year, they didn't have quite the numbers, and so even to try to find the teams to play, but,
And it was like that for 2 years now,
okay,
for girls,
okay,
so I don't know if that means it's a trend, but, I mean, because we had 3 teams 2
Yeah,
years
you're
ago,
right.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
okay,
And, you know, the Worthing team was hopefully gonna be the 4th team this year, and that would've worked out, but it didn't, and so, honestly, I don't see anything wrong with going co-ed. I don't remember if we were co-ed, was Claire and Nate, were they co-ed? No, okay, so it must have happened before that. I feel like there was co-ed at some point here. And I don't know why they switched, but I don't think there's much difference in abilities at that level, and it's all for fun anyway. I think we might as well give the best, what's the word? I don't know. Opportunity for everybody,
okay.
whether it's boys or girls or whatever. So I have no problem with that.
I don't think I see an issue with it either. Just trying to think.
I know.
What would
Right.
difference it would make.
Mhm,
I mean, besides the ball, right?
mhm. Right,
But,
For T-ball?
yeah,
like the ball size.
do they use the same, I can't remember so Audra didn't use a softball this year.
I don't think they did. For a T-ball, I think boys and girls both use
Okay.
the T-ball, like that soft T-ball,
Yep.
rubber ball or whatever it is, maybe.
Okay, I just
Think.
couldn't remember.
I don't know, it's been a.
That would be the only thing I can
Right.
think of. And if that's not the case, then that is not a worry at all.
Yeah, but I think, like I said, this next year we'll have a T-baller again,
Mhm.
and she wouldn't care. she was playing boys and girls.
Yeah, quite used to that, yeah.
I mean, could it be where you sign up separately, and if we've got enough, if we got 4 teams on both sides, we could keep it as it is? Or if we have to, we can combine them?
Does boys T-ball just play each other as well, or do both? They just play Lennox
Right.
teams, boys
Yep.
and girls
Yep.
T-ball? Because I feel like when one of my kids, like girls, did the girls used to play other teams, or has it always been that way with?
I think coaches have the opportunities
Okay.
to do that.
If I
'Cause-
remember right, I think we just played the other.
It's
Lennox
always just
teams.
been for boys and girls. It's always just been. Okay.
I think so.
'Cause
For T-ball.
Unless
Sure,
the
I'm
coaches
thinking
went
of
out of their way to do it.
Sure.
I think they could. And I feel like maybe Nate's team did that in his first year of T-ball. They went and played a Canton team because they were looking for, and I think it was only 1 game.
Sure. Okay.
But in general, no. they
Okay.
don't.
I did ask that to a couple, I think it was Parker, I don't remember what the other community, and they're like, we just like our T-ballers to be able to not have to travel.
For
And
sure.
their parents like, you know, prefer that, where they can just run up to the field
For
and
sure.
don't have to, you know, go to away games or what
Yeah.
have you,
Yeah.
so. yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that feedback. Another thing too is we could consider adding on like a 4-year-old division. I don't know if we'd have enough or not, but there's a couple of it. So Harrisburg and T, I know they do a 4-year-old group, and it's pretty successful. I think that's just something for the kids to do, but it's not really actual games. It's more like fun games and drills and different things. So it's like less of a structured activity and more of just learning to, different drills that are fun-based, I guess, and that sort of a thing. T does something called blast ball, where they run to first and then they beep a horn or something, and just something just to get them used to running the right direction around the bases and which foot to step forward with and those sorts of things. So I don't know if we'd have enough interest or be able to get the word out enough, but that was something I thought, especially if we were to move the timeline, we'd certainly have the
Mhm.
field space or be able to do that on a different night or whatever too, but
Does T-ball start right now at 5? Do you have to be 5 to do
yes,
T-ball?
5 and
Okay.
6, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think if there's interest,
And we could always open
and
it up and
there's
just
plenty
say,
of
yeah,
room, if we do, like you said, move it to later in the summer. If we don't get enough people, then we don't do it, but if we
Yeah.
do.
well, and if it's not really actually playing real games, any number's gonna be okay,
True. Yeah.
depending, right? So like it could just be an add-on, so I think it might be something fun to try and see where it
Mhm.
goes, if you guys think that that's a good direction.
I think Worthing maybe either
Yes,
tried it or
they-
did it,
mhm.
and I don't know, maybe some Lennox people went over there.
I think
You know,
they combine
with
them all
4-year-olds.
together, honestly,
Okay.
but, yeah. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to visit a little bit about is the USA softball registration. So a little context, this last year, so our 8U and 10U girls are in the Harrisburg Lennox T League. And they're not associated with USA Ball at all, they're not doing tournaments and that sort of a thing. And so I didn't register them through USA softball. In talking to T in Harrisburg, one of them does register each of their teams and one doesn't. But the one that does, they allow them to potentially go play in the state tournament, the rec team. So, that team remains the same, right? So I guess and there's some additional, from my understanding, there's some additional perks with just added insurance coverage and thing, which they're already covered here through our city, and I didn't ask too many questions about that. I still have a call out to the commissioner, the South Dakota commissioner of USA softball. A couple of the questions I asked, he had to refer to somebody else because I was maybe asking a lot of technical questions, but I guess I'm leaning towards just registering everybody right from the start, at the start of the season, and then and I kind of have this later on in the memo here, but allowing then the 10U age group for softball to register for that year-end state tournament, which we've done in the past as well. But that way, that registration is already taken care of right at the start of the season versus before that state tournament. That makes sense? I know Sailor's on the other end and she's had quite a bit of experience, and then Clint, so I don't know if this is something we can, if you guys don't have like a lot of that, we can wait a little bit on that if needed to until I get some more answers from the commissioner, but.
So when they go to state, who do they play against?
So there's a rec division.
Okay, that's what I was gonna,
Yeah,
because if they're gonna be playing against tournament
Right.
teams, I don't know if we wanna bring each of the teams and say, oh yeah, all of you,
Right.
But if there is a rec division in that, then I get it.
So the only thing the only barrier I can see with going ahead and just registering teams is when you get to like the state tournament. In my experience with like the 12U and the 10U is that you have some of the teams that are like, yeah, we want to go, and some don't. And then if the team doesn't have enough, the one 10U wants to go and this one doesn't, then you kind of like combine the teams to go. But when you're registered with USA Softball, my understanding is that you cannot be on 2-team rosters.
right.
So, from my understanding, and I don't know, this would be like a Clint or Sailor question, or maybe, the commissioner, is that then we wouldn't be able to do that and kind of combine teams to build like one Lennox team to go.
I thought that's what the pickup,
So for 12U and 14U, we're in a different league, and we will need to sign up right away through USA Softball. And I'm getting additional clarification on that from Linda, the main lady there, as well as the commissioner. But I've explained that very thing where it seems like there's, at those age groups, there's a bunch of girls maybe doing, club volleyball and they're out of town, or, this, that, and the other thing, where there's not enough on either team to potentially go. So then they want to, do the combined thing, and what are our options? So this is where I need to get a little bit more clarification, and I was hoping to have heard back from them before tonight, and it didn't happen. But they did say that there's a couple different processes in terms of if it's 3 or less changes to like pick up players, then that is fine on a roster. What I need clarification on is each of those 3 players already be on a different team or not?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. Additionally, then, they said that you can request and apply to resubmit your roster partway through, and that can be reviewed by the South Dakota USA Association or whatever. And they would look at the circumstances to be able to decide if that's going to be accepted. So I think there are some processes, depending on the outcome of player availability and interest, that we could do that as well.
Okay.
But I think I just need to find out a little bit more information on that too. Okay, so Sailor's saying you can take 3 pickup players in addition to your roster. So Sailor, my question is whether those players can have already been on a different roster earlier in the year.
Kind of along the same lines, I don't know if there's any guidelines that are separate for, like if, 14U is short, there's only one 14U team, but they say, maybe we'll pull up 3 12U people or something
Right.
like that. Is there like anything with the age divisions?
That
too?
was also in my question to
Yeah.
them. When it was both, I'm sure they're thinking, lady, but I'm like, I have very
Wanna know.
specific
Yeah.
questions that, yeah. Sailor, I could hear you went off mute, but I don't know that we can hear you. That's on her end or our end? Hard to tell. Okay. All right, should we just table this particular thing and we can?
I would love to hear the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would
it's
be
better with those
Yeah,
2
we have a lot of
probably.
experience.
Yep, okay, that sounds good. And then when it comes to the baseball and softball tournaments, I I think that I could use a little bit more clarity in terms of how many tournaments that the city will cover costs for, okay? There was not anything in our policy, so as I'm going through that policy, I'd like to be quite a bit more clear on that, and I think there was some verbal, understanding that we'll pay for a couple, per team and that sort of a thing, but, again, in talking to T, they basically, their rec league is, the league itself, the league playoff, as well as the potential to then play in that state tournament, if they want to. Some teams do and some teams don't, based on kind of their availability and that sort of thing. So, one thought is that for 10, 12, and 14U softball, that we cover that cost for the state tournament if it so happens that they can go. I think in years past, we said that there could be a couple tournaments. But again, it wasn't really clear when the baton got passed to me what that was, and I don't know if you guys have a history and background on that at all either.
I think 2 years ago, they did like 3 tournaments.
Okay.
But that was baseball. And to me, if softball is not getting the same, I think probably try to even it out. So, like if you're recommending state tournament for both, and the rest can be probably covered by parents or whatever, I think that's fine.
And for baseball, we have the ability to have both the rec teams and then have that tryout process, right, for the tournament teams. And again, it's, I think we need to just kind of reassess what that looks like to ensure that the fees that we're saying are for rec are the same, in fairness to those that are on then a tournament team, in addition to and covering those tournament costs. We have had a small fee for the players who do make a tournament team, but I don't know that it would have fully covered that. I think it would have helped, so I think it'll be good for us to just discuss. I'd like some direction on how we want to outline that, so it's very clear as to what's covered in their park and rec registration versus then in addition to that is above and beyond that the parents will pay for. I don't know if there's initial thoughts on that.
I think it's a pretty good line to draw, like everyone gets to play in whatever their league tournament is, and then the city pays for the state tournament, and then everything beyond that is the parents or the team, whatever they decide, as long as it's, like you said, kind of fair across the board, whether you're talking about your rec league or if there's a baseball tournament team.
Has it ever been communicated so a rec team could play in the state tournament and the city would be covered in those fees? Because I've never been offered that.
They've had like a B team,
That's a tournament.
but not necessarily, I don't think a rec team has ever tried.
Are you talking softball
We're
or
talking
baseball?
softball though.
Or-
I was thinking baseball.
Well, because with
baseball, okay.
baseball, because of the tournament team aspect, you would only have those two, if there's an A and a B, it would be those teams that.
Okay, so when you're
form.
saying the state tournament,
Right,
that you're just talking about the tournament
Yes.
teams for these, not the rec
yes,
teams.
yes.
Okay.
And then for softball, there are no tournament teams, right? So it would be.
Sure. Okay,
Each of those would have that
Sure.
opportunity.
that makes sense.
Because in general, on the registration, who wants to be a part of a tournament team?
Yes,
Here's the people, and
yes,
then you make the teams based on that.
for sure.
For
for
the
sure.
tournaments.
Yep.
So the other people you would assume that are just playing rec and have no interest in tournaments.
Yep.
Aren't gonna wanna go to that.
No, absolutely.
Right,
I was
I
making
guess.
sure I understood.
Yep.
Yep, that makes perfect sense.
But yeah, no, to me, if it makes sense to make a number or a certain amount available or whatever, I would say one tournament, or the state tournament, and then everything else is covered. Either with an extra fee or probably by parents. And I think it's in here directly by the parents, and someone else kind of lines that up. But I don't know what you guys think. Because if I'm looking at it like softball only gets the state tournament, and if that's the case, then I don't think baseball should get, 3 tournaments plus that.
The other thing we could do, we could do on the baseball side for the tournament team is try to make sure that we can. So what we've done is those that made the A or the B team, then they have to go in and pay an additional X amount of money. So I could try to decide how much is 3 tournaments, right, and divide that out. And like if we were to cover it, then we would just make sure that it's as close as possible. I would just have to do a little bit of research as to what an average,
That makes sense.
And then
we can
You're
just-
essentially doing it, you're
Yeah.
essentially doing that then, is
Yeah.
parents are paying for
Yes.
it, but it's because they have agreed to be on
Right.
the tournament team and they
Yes.
wanted to be and signed up for that, and so then they're paying the extra fee for
Yeah.
the tournaments.
The only challenge with that is some years, like they might do 2 and some years they might do 3, right? So like they might not get to whatever that threshold is, type thing, so. We can put more thought into that. I'll try to draft something and then again at the next meeting, like all of this will be included and we can nail that down at that time too, but it's just good to have initial feedback from you guys on that, so. I'm gonna skip down to number 5 because it's related and I should have had it in that order anyway. In our policy, as I was going through it, there were 2 different places where it talked about tournament teams for the baseball. And it kind of said 2 different things, and I'm thinking that there was a policy that was updated and the prior one maybe wasn't taken out or something, and it was maybe just a clerical thing, but, one said that there would be just 3 non-family member evaluators, whereas the other one basically said that it would be like third party out of the community, basically. Some of the feedback from the baseball survey did say that the coaches kind of oftentimes, if they've coached these kids, that they know these players a lot in terms of maybe where they're at developmentally and their effort and their, skill set and maybe the positions that they play. So I was just trying to consider whether if we were to continue doing that same evaluation process where we have an outside entity do the tryout, if after the tryout, they were provided potentially with some sort of feedback from the coaches if needed. Like if it came down to, we're kind of going back and forth between these kids and that sort of thing, that they'd have some coach feedback if they felt that was needed within their evaluation process. I don't know if it's needed or not. There was just some feedback on the survey on that, so I wanted to bring that up and see what your guys' thoughts are on it.
I think the unbiased is probably the way that I would go. And I think that it's gone well. They've usually picked, there's probably a time and a place where someone doesn't have, a good tryout and they don't make it. And maybe they are better, but who's to say they're better this year? Like they were better last year, but someone got better now. And if we're having someone that could provide biased opinions, say, oh, well, that person was better last year,
Gotcha.
so we need them. And I don't think that, I don't know. If I do poorly on a test, my grade's gonna go down, even if I've done well the rest of the year, I think as unbiased as we can get it would be probably be the safest way to go on that.
Yeah, I can understand what they're saying is, we've coached these kids a long time, a lot of people have coached them a long time, we know their effort, their ability, well, that kind of things. That's fine. I think that you're gonna run into a lot of issues if you start picking teams like that. So my opinion would be is you have a third party, kind of a neutral party, do the tryouts and assessments. I suppose you could potentially do like a big pool, like the third party people do the tryouts and they pick this group of kids. And then your coaches for the 2 tournament teams or whatever then sit down and pick teams or something if you wanted to do that, but.
It just, it's hard though, because we don't have coaches that we're paying. We're counting on the parents of the kids who make it to step up and be the coaches. You know, it's just, it can get tricky to not let them have any input at all when they've committed their time and energy for no pay. And you know, I don't know, I guess I can see it both ways. I definitely think we need a third party involved. It should not just be
Yes.
coaches. But coaches do, they put in a lot of time and effort with these kiddos. I agree though, now if you wait, I don't know, I can see it both ways. I just think that there might be sometimes a time and place for a coach who just spent 3 months working with these kids. And now all of a sudden their kid didn't make it, and now I guess I'm not coaching, you know?
But we're not making the choice based on the coach. You know, like, we're not saying this kid makes a tournament team because the coach is
Right.
the coach.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it gets a little bit tricky.
I just think the unbiased third party gives you, based on everyone's tryout and their skills that were showcased at the tryout versus thoughts and opinions of people.
Does that, I mean, are we okay with, I just am thinking this is a situation to happen where a group of parents took their, you know, are kind of going away from Park and Rec and did their own thing. Is that gonna continue to happen? I don't know. And it didn't before, so maybe it'll go back to how it always was, but
Yeah,
That's my
I don't
hope.
know.
I know. It's hard to know.
We're kind of in that size community, right, where we've got enough kids for several teams, but maybe not enough to, you know, to do both, you know, the competitive and direct solely and that sort of things. We're kind of in that middle ground, but. Well, I'll draft it kind of as is, taking out what felt to be a prior, you know, policy, and it seemed to me the newer one. I think I can recognize which one that is, so we can further discuss if needed when we do the full review, so. It also in the policy, so going to number 4, we had in there that each parent will submit a deposit for their jersey, and I don't know that practice has happened. I think it will be nice to set something forward in order to recoup money for jerseys that are not turned in. But I guess my recommendation would be instead of a deposit, instead we do a, for unreturned jerseys, we bill afterwards. And my thought is that I would set up a process so that based on the size that they have at their registration, you know, I can assign the number directly, have that in a spreadsheet with the kid's name, the size, and the jersey number, provide that to the coaches so that that child gets the correct jersey. And then at the end of the season, the parents will be encouraged to give them to the coaches that same night of the last game for the coach to turn into City Hall. And if those parents that don't, they need to return them themselves to City Hall, and then I'll be able to do the check-in process. And it'll be on me then to contact those parents as to get a reminder in. And then if not, after, I think I had a 2-week time period, then we would charge $25 fee. What are your thoughts on that process? Or what am I not thinking of or missing on there?
Makes sense.
I think that sounds fine.
Yeah. that's-
Okay, as a coach, that would feel reasonable for the collection and,
Yeah,
okay. Okay. And then lastly, soccer, just wanted some feedback. There were a couple people that had asked about our age division. So right now we have the pre-KK, 1st and 2nd grade, and the 3rd and 4th grade. We had 5 teams of 8 players on the 2 youngest teams. And then the next age group, that 3rd and 4th grade level, we had 3 teams of 7. And of course, when you're getting older, you're having more kids on the team and playing like a more real-like situation. But it becomes more difficult because there's not as many teams, right, to play against. So we have to kind of get creative in that. So the question is, do we want to continue adding an age division, especially with the interest of soccer potentially, the conversation around it potentially being a high school sanctioned sport in Lennox and that sort of a thing? Do we want to try to consider 5th and 6th grade division? I guess the questions I would have, would we, have enough interest and be able to play each other? Or would we want to instead have the parents organize groups of kids at that age group that would be interested, and they can use, like, we would partner with them with field space, but they would then register directly with Dakota Alliance at that point. So I'm trying to kind of get your thoughts on how far up we want to go on that.
So 3rd and 4th had 21 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably gonna, I would assume it continues to drop each year after that, right? Like,
I would think so,
you're gonna get
unless the
maybe
interest of
15.
soccer in
Right,
general,
true.
I don't know.
but for next year,
Yes, yeah, there'd be even then less.
'cause
Mhm.
what do you need on a team? 8 on the
What
field?
do you need in the team, soccer team?
7 on the field?
I think they played anywhere from 4 to 4 to 7
Well,
or 8.
But like the
I
legit
mean
rules.
like at
Who was
Dakota
there?
Alliance.
I thought there was
Like the
one.
actual soccer, like Nate's playing right now.
Yeah,
And I didn't pay enough, like, I don't remember how many kids, but I think there was at least 6 plus a goalie.
mhm.
I thought
And so,
that- I just asked this
11.
question. I was gonna say, I thought there was
11.
11 or 12, yeah.
It's 11.
okay, well, I know Nate's team wasn't doing that many, but they were doing quite a few. And I just picture, that sounds like you could maybe get one team
Right,
and go play for Dakota Alliance. Cause like Nate's group this year, there were 4 Lennox kids that signed up. They got grouped together with some other Sioux Falls
Got it.
kids or whatever.
mhm.
But if you had enough, and I mean, maybe if it was something where we at least gave them the information that this is a possibility,
Mhm.
go play here,
Mhm.
and they'll group you together
Yeah.
with all the Lennox kids, and then you guys can have one team.
Mhm.
You can practice here, that kind of thing.
Well, I think doing it in the spring, isn't that when the boys, at least the boys in the spring, so you're not trying to compete with football? Because
Yeah.
boys soccer in high
'Cause-
school is in the spring.
Cause there was one kid that played soccer and football, and he missed, I think, 2 soccer
Yeah.
games because he had a football game.
I
Okay.
just think you'd maybe
At the
have
same
more,
time.
because that's, I think, why
Yeah.
some of the reasons why the numbers start to drop is then you have volleyball on Saturday mornings, you have
But-
football.
But
maybe-
baseball starts in
True,
April.
you're right, that's a good
Yeah.
point, you're right.
And
Yeah.
so you're gonna run into that with baseball
Yeah,
too, I
that's
think.
true.
In T, for example, they have, they only, for their rec program, they do pre-K and K, 1st and 2nd, and then starting both 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th, they sign up directly through, and they're that much closer to Sioux Falls too and things, so I think if we can continue having that, 3rd and 4th, I think that would, be awesome, but I feel like it could be a stretch to try to go up to that next age division, just like you said, based on, more kids are kind of picking, I'm gonna go this sport and kind of lopping off, but,
And if we get the numbers eventually where we're putting 2 big teams together to go play up there, then maybe it makes more sense to do, 4 smaller groups or whatever and play each other here.
yeah.
I don't know.
So how does it work through Dakota Alliance? Everyone individually signs up and then they put you on teams? Or is it you can have like a Lennox team and then you sign up as a Lennox team?
I think it can
You're-
be either way,
Oh, okay.
right?
You're technically grouped by your school, unless I think you ask to be placed somewhere else.
Okay.
But we were grouped by school. so I don't know if the other is if it is an option.
Yeah, we signed up through T, the T and Lennox team. Over time, it just dissolved, and we were signed up individually and just dispersed out to different teams, so. I think if you tell the Dakota Alliance, we can field a team from Lennox this year, like them all be together, I think they'd be together.
Maybe just putting the information out there, say.
Right.
hey,
Our
let's all
program
come
is
together.
over, if you want this option, get together as a parent group and decide if you wanna form a team or, a couple teams as Lennox and register that way, or as individuals and have them place you or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my thinking too, for that age group, just, yeah.
Cause I think they get more out of that,
Yeah.
like they're on way bigger fields, with more kids. I mean, real refs.
Competition,
or whatever
teams
you
to
call it.
play, yeah.
So I think that's probably a good spot. It's still rec league, or it can be. So it's not over anyone's head, I think it's good for them.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just takes someone, and I don't know, from Parks and Rec or whoever to say, hey, we want to put together a 5th grade boys soccer team. And the plan is that we'll sign up together and we'll play through who's in.
Mhm.
And just flooding, because a lot of people are like, I don't know, I didn't know that was an
Yeah.
option.
Yeah,
or-
you're right.
So,
Mhm.
kind of see that too, Big Sue for like basketball and
Yeah.
volleyball too, like until
Right.
someone says, hey, any 3rd grade girls or whatever who want to
Right.
play volleyball.
It's on that parent
We're
group
putting
to
a
kind of
team.
pull together, but we could
Yeah.
at least share that information,
Yeah.
like you're
Yeah.
aged out, you have another option if you guys want to get together and decide that. Okay.
Use our field. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Thanks for the feedback. That's all I had. There's gonna be some probably more items, but, I'm getting pretty close to, I still need to work through pool policies yet, but I'm hoping by the next meeting I can come with it packaged up for you, so. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, you want a motion to adjourn?
I will motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
guys. I was telling Nate that